If I had to guess, I'd say somewhere in my late 20s was the first time I actually tried to lose weight. That would mean that I have somewhere around 30 years of experience in trying to force my body to weigh less than it's planning to weigh. I don't know. Do you remember when you began dieting? I'm wondering if you have anywhere near as many years of experience as I have. Now, from what I can figure out, I think there are four mistakes that we make that keep us struggling with our weight and cause us to just perpetually diet. Or at least there's four that I seem to put my finger on, right? And I want to talk about them so that you can answer the questions now and you don't have to go through all the stuff. So you don't have to struggle like I did, right? Even though I'm going to, right off the bat, acknowledge there's value in struggling through it. I got something out of doing the hoops and seeing these answers for myself. But there's also value in learning from other people. So that's why I'm going to share it with you. And you might be in the middle of these things right now and realizing, oh my gosh, I know exactly what she's talking about. Or they might be things that come up for you that when you see them happening, you're going to be able to say, that's what Violet was talking about. I don't have to live that 7 or 8 times. I can see it right now and correct it right away. So that's the hope I have for sharing this with you. The first one comes from the way we spend the first 17 years of our lives in school, right? We're constantly competing to be the best. We want to be liked by everyone and have lots of friends. We want to be the smartest and get good grades. Usually want to do that without having to put in too much effort as well. And we see success as having the desired outcome with the least amount of effort. Like that's when you know you've really been doing it correctly. In the world of weight loss, that would look like I modify my eating, right, for a short period of time. I achieve the appropriate weight. Maybe even I work out during that time and I get like, big muscles if I'm a guy, or I get the appropriate muscles if I'm a lady. And then I maintain that weight loss moving forward long term easily. So, can we just start with the belief that maintaining our weight should be easy? Like, this idea allows us to make horrible mistakes, in my opinion. The most important mistake that we make because we want weight loss to be easy is we ignore or maybe we misunderstand what is healthy, and we favor doing what will lead to the fastest weight loss. And to do that, a lot of the times what we do is we layer different strategies one on top of each other, even when the strategies don't work well together. And if the strategies don't work well together, that means I'm going to actually potentially harm myself. And that potential harm could be quite serious. So sometimes the potential harm is just going to stop the diet from working. Sometimes the potential harm is going to make the diet work so quickly that we think we get this misunderstanding about what we've just done that makes us believe that we could easily do that no matter what's happening in our life. Of course, that leads to other mistakes, right? So if I take something like a terrific keto diet, but then I add fasting on top of it, and then I add low fat on top of it, and then I'm still calorie counting on top of that, I'm trying to force my body to do something immediately, especially if it's just adding them without any. Well, I don't know what reason you'd have to add fat. Like my body's never going to add low fat. My body's never going to tell me to do that. But if I'm pushing for these things because somehow that calorie count is telling me that this is the direction to go, and so all of a sudden, my body, of course, is going to struggle with the very small amount of energy that's ever coming in to let me live my day. The diet becomes not sustainable. We ignore our physical hunger signals. It's another way that we try to push success. So we're not comfortable at all during this new way of eating, this diet we're doing, this whatever you want to call it. And again, it makes it not sustainable, which means that I don't do it long enough to get the um, outcome that I'm trying to get. And sometimes we just blatantly ignore the signs that what we're doing isn't working, in the sense that our body is exhausted, or we're living pain, or we have skin issues that arise or come back. And we don't pay any attention to it because the number on the scale is going down. But our body is screaming, this is not healthy. So when all the food things don't work, I've also known people to do the medication route or the surgery route. And again, to my dismay, a lot of the people that have told me that they've done that are still, again, on another diet trying to lose weight. So I do these procedures, they don't work, and then I'm back to the place where I started, where I'm dieting. It's we we can't force our body to be successful. And so this is the thing. If I'm only looking at success equals the scale number is something specific, and then I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to get there, I allow myself to put my body in a bad situation, Miles Warner. And we're so focused on a perfect outcome, right? We want to be thin. And we're taught to focus on that and fight for that in school, right? And we're so focused on that one this is the answer, right? There's one answer the teacher's looking for, and if I put that answer down, I get the gold star, I get the 100%, I get whatever that perfection symbol, depending on what level of school I'm at. We're so focused on that. We don't know how to achieve the real outcome, which is knowledge, which is understanding, which is I can use this data in the world. That's what our kids actually should have been. That's what we as kids should actually have been aiming at. That I'm learning stuff that I can take out into the world and use, not just try to get a gold star from my teacher. And because we're not taught correctly, right? We're willing to do all kinds of shenanigans to lose weight, but those shenanigans actually stop us from figuring out what food helps us to maintain a healthy weight, and which foods block us from achieving that goal, which foods cause intestinal and distress. I spent years eating good, right? For a few months, I would get myself like eating all the right things and then get my body back into the weight or near the weight it's supposed to be. And then I'd go back to eating the garbage that was causing the problem in the first place, because my solution, my goal, the thing that I was aiming at, right? The success marker was the scale says this. And as soon as the scale said that, there was no reason for me to ever do this behavior again. I bought the lie that getting to that goal is what you want, the lie that it should be easy to stay here, right? Because I got the 100%. That's all I needed, right? Do we see where in school, not getting out into the world and using that data in our world is what really blocks us from ever truly getting the purpose of school? Right? And especially today, because even though, for example, something so basic like adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing are things that we do on a regular basis. When I go grocery shopping, I want to make sure that the person gave back the right change. I need to be able to count that money up quick in my hand. And interestingly enough, we will take the bill, look at the number that the computer said should be there, and then look at the number that's in our hand. Wellness warrior, these things are causing us to be unhealthy because we no longer need to use our mind to figure out our world. And so when it comes to eating, we let these things tell us what we should be eating. There's a reason that I resist telling you guys what I eat. It would stop you from figuring it out for yourself. And what blows my mind is how after 4 or even 5 times of losing weight and putting it back on and losing weight and I didn't figure out, realize, come to the conclusion that going back to the old, stupid American diet, stupid Canadian diet, insert what country you're in diet there, was the problem. Like, it took me more than 30 years to be having this conversation with someone right now. Wellness warrior. Yeah. But the very first really important correction that I want you to make is to realize that the diet that helped you to get fat, the standard insert your country here diet, will always help you to get fat. It always will. The healthy diet is the answer. Whatever healthy diet that you find that allows you to get to your healthy weight, that's the answer. So that means it needs to be a healthy diet so that you can maintain it into your future. When you switch to keto or carnivore and lose weight, which is what happens to people who switch to keto and carnivore and actually eat that way of life, they lose weight. And then if you maintain eating your diet, you maintain your weight loss. It's amazing how that works. In the last 6 years of dieting, 3 ideas about dieting have really changed for me. I've totally spun my brain around on them in the last 6 years. And I want to, well, okay. It leads to me figuring out mistake number 2. I know this one is confusing because I'm actually the queen of tracking everything that we put in our mouths. And now I'm saying we shouldn't scrutinize everything that we eat. That's what I'm saying. We should not be scrutinizing everything that we eat. We've been lied to for several years. Now, this is going back before even I was born. Like, we were told that if we cut calories, we can achieve sustainable weight loss. Well, maybe that part wasn't said before I was born. I might have been around for that part. We've repeatedly failed to do this. At least I know I have. I've cut calories, maybe lost 5 pounds. Maybe if I'm lucky, I lost 10. And then as soon as you go back to eating normally, the weight comes back on. But we already know that that part's a mistake. But what would happen if I just cut the calories and didn't go back to eating normally? Well, according to what I learned from Dr. Fung at the beginning of my journey into this way of eating, if you take your calorie count, and they know this because they've studied it. If you take your calorie count down by 500, yes, your body will lose weight, but your body will also adjust, recalibrate calorie usage, So energy usage, it will recalibrate how much your body is burning energy, so making warming you up. It'll recalibrate how much energy you have to use in your world. It changes your body will rebalance itself out to suit the amount of energy that it can figure out is coming in. And Dr. Fung helped me to understand that that happens about 6 months in. So if you're able to sustain the diet for 6 months, somewhere around 6 months into eating this way, you notice you're not losing weight anymore. Now you have an option. You can lower the amount you're eating again or decide this is where I stay. If you're lucky and you only had, you know, 20 pounds to lose, let's say, you might be able to accomplish that with this kind of a diet. So I bring my calorie count down and maybe I make it to the 20 pounds lost. Yay, I just have to eat this calorie count moving forward. You might be a little bit less lucky and you bring your calorie count down. Maybe you lose half the weight, bring it down again. Maybe you lose the rest of the weight and now I have to just eat at this new level again. The problem is that new level that we brought ourselves down to, although we reorganize and our body gets used to the energy coming in, we still feel hungry. Our body doesn't adjust so that we don't feel hungry. It's adjusting so that we can continue. It's still giving us signals. Hey, you need to find more food. Now, the second thing that Dr. Fung helped me to understand when I was learning about this was that this idea of adjusting calories, which is what we do here, doesn't work because our body doesn't understand what calories are. There's no way in our system to count the amount of calories coming in. And there aren't any calorie receptors for a very good reason, right? Our body checks the food we eat. So if we're tracking calories, our body doesn't care. And so there's nothing for it to do with that information. And that food that we're eating that might fall into the correct calorie count isn't what is going to help us lose weight, or at least lose weight long term. That means we fail at weight loss, Wellness Warrior. And that's not what any of us wants. Now, our body can tell the difference between macronutrients. That's what our body's trying to figure out, right? It can tell if we've eaten protein, fat, or sugar, or any combination thereof. So when we eat sugar, what I learned in the last 6 years is our body freaks the heck out. It freaks out. Or mine at least used to, right? Nowadays, we have eaten so much sugar that we're just used to feeling how we feel with the excessive amounts of sugar in our meals. So our body and mostly our brain isn't freaking out in the sense that, like, for example, my stomach is and I have headaches or whatever. Like that part isn't happening. But internally, the sensors, they're still freaking out. The sense you're for example, if I look at one of them, if I the amount of insulin that your body's producing that used to be at a normal amount, it's going up and up and up and up with every year that we allow excessive amounts of sugar to be in our meals. And we can't tell that sensor. Like we can't feel that one. When we were babies and we were first fed solid food, and most parents know this, you're feeding your kid and then they're gassy and like it's not a good story when you start feeding them solid foods. They go from being just happy-go-lucky, trying to learn how to crawl and normal poops, to all of a sudden struggling sometimes to poop, or diarrhea sometimes, or just this inordinate amount of gas. Their body is struggling and we are not aware because they can't tell us that, hey, this thing that I'm eating is making my stomach hurt. Doctors in the keto world, right, have been telling us how much sugar is possible. Well, what's good for us. And the doctors in the keto world tell us that if you are metabolically challenged, your body probably can manage 20 grams or less. But it's the or less part that we should be focusing on. Those doctors will tell us, you don't want to ride right up to that 20, but your body probably could manage 20, but you don't want to ride. And some people can manage 25, some people can manage 30. Like, this is not, the number is not hard line. But doctors in the keto world will tell you that you're trying to be 20 or less because you're metabolically challenged, because your body is more reactive, because all these sensors were so dulled for so long. And if we think about it, I just said that this started to happen when you were a baby. So chances are really, really, really good that if you're watching this video and you've been eating normally in the last however old you are, there's a possibility that you're metabolically challenged. I'm just saying that because I want you to start thinking wider. Because this is what I wasn't doing. I wasn't allowing myself to understand the way that food impacts us. So if you have no metabolic damage at this moment in time whatsoever, which in my mind, that means you're either a really, really young person or you've been eating properly, so a keto or carnivore lifestyle, since you were a little child, which is possible because there are lots of communities where we don't have as much access to the garbage, first of all, but also there are lots of communities that don't have as much access to vegetation. So if you're not lucky story, I envy you. And you would be able, I'm saying this, so this is not keto doctors saying this. Let me just clarify. I think that the average person that has no metabolic damage whatsoever, I think you'd be able to manage 125 grams of carbs or less, so that low carb world, and you'd be able to manage. But that's not the question we're trying to answer right now. We're trying to answer the question of what is excessive. Since our body makes all the carbohydrates that you ever need, ever, eating any carbs is actually excessive. If you stop and think about it, right? I don't need them. My body makes them. You're eating something that your body is not actually asking for. If you're going, like, if you're doing keto or low carb, yes, you should be tracking carbs because you're eating something your body isn't asking for, right? And over the last year, I learned that our body has a natural satiety mechanism that causes you to no longer feel hungry, right? And to eat when you've, like, to stop eating when you've had enough, right? You're not happy to keep eating past when you feel satiated. Like, your body's and can I just tell you, it's a strong feeling, wellness warrior. It's not a little thing. The same way that when you're hungry, that stomach feeling is uncomfortable and kind of urgent, even though it could go away in, like, just as quickly as it comes on. So that, again, our body is so fascinating. If you stop and think about it, if I were to get hungry and that feeling happens, and then it stayed with me for the entirety of the time until I was able to eat, that very distracting, uncomfortable, like grumbling, growling feeling, I wouldn't be able to get out into the field and chase down a rabbit if, like, I can barely, like, do anything because this intense feeling is bugging me so much, right? Our body gives us the signal and then it subsides and it gives us time to go and figure it out. And then it gives us the signal again, and it'll keep doing that until we solve. And the satiety signal is very interesting in that it's similar. It's an intense, all I could tell you is it felt like, ugh. So this delicious food that I was just eating, all of a sudden was, ugh, don't want anymore. Now, let me clarify what I'm calling food, because I used to call food any healthy keto thing I put on my plate. And we know that got me in trouble when it came to nuts. So I've evaluated and reevaluated this definition multiple times. Today, I'm helping you to understand that food is the protein and fat that we actually need to fuel our body, because that's what my body's actually asking for when it gives me hunger signals. It is not asking for vegetation. And what I figured out in the last, especially in the last 5 months, especially since I've become carnivore in that period of time where I was very, 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 very low veg. What I figured out is that when you eat only meat and the accompanying fat that came along with that meat, when you don't want any more, when your body has had enough, it's a very distinct, this is delicious. This is delicious. No. The switch is obvious. And even if I know it tastes delicious, I no longer want to eat it. And that ick that happens, it's beautiful. Can I just tell you, it's beautiful because it doesn't allow you to overeat. When you're eating carbohydrates, that doesn't happen. Or at least I know I've never had it happen to me where I'm eating something that has carbohydrates in it and I get a ick, and it's not because I didn't like the thing. I'm talking about I was eating it was delicious, 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 ick. That's never happened to me. Even when I was eating my healthy keto meals with, a good amount of meat and good amount of veg, or even a good amount of meat and a little bit of veg, I still never had that feeling happen. I always was able to finish my plate. So, in my mind, that means one of two things. It either means that with the carbohydrate on my plate, perhaps I was eating I was eating an amount to feel satiated, which is what Dr. Westman informed me to do. And so that's what I was aiming at. And so that's why I was able to get through it all, because I was eating enough to feel satiated, but of course, not ever getting to the point where I was going to go over. So my body didn't have to tell me to stop. But then that makes me wonder, could I have eaten more protein and fat, which fast forward to today, I learned I could have. Would eating that extra protein and fat have caused me to gain weight? I'm going to answer that question. I have a video coming about it, so subscribe because you're going to want to see the answer to that question. It is very, very interesting, especially considering how much more I was eating. But I want to just go back to talking about this mechanism, right? Because this mechanism can only work if we let it work. But it stops working when we, very, very intelligent humans, remove the fat from the meat we're eating. We buy lean cuts of meat. If you go to the grocery store and you want a cut of meat that's not lean, from what I can tell, the pieces that I've been able to find, pork belly, obviously bacon as well, and a few cuts of meat that seem to have a good amount of fat. Is that all the fat that would have been on that portion of the animal? I don't know, because I'm not a butcher and I've never actually done that process. But what I know is they remove a good amount. And so we're not getting all the fat that we should be getting when we eat our meat. And therefore, we're not getting the signal, the natural signal that would have come from our body to tell us, hey, you've had enough. So if you think about it, back in the old days, when we were hunting for every meal we were ever going to eat, we wouldn't have thrown that fat away. Not even possible, right? What if I don't catch anything tomorrow? So we would have eaten it, right? To make sure that if I don't catch anything tomorrow, I have the energy from that fat to keep me moving forward. And today, we throw it out, right? Why do we do that? Well, because today we could just pop in the car, jump on our bike, walk around the corner to the grocery store and buy more food. And also we do that because we've been lied to. We've been lied to and led to believe that fat is what was causing us to be overweight, Wellness Warrior. That's so not true. right? Fat was not causing my weight gain. Now, without the fat, we seem to be able to eat a lot of protein. We can get it down and we don't get that signal. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I think it's potentially bad because we're only getting half of what we would have gotten had we eaten the animal the way that animal was presented to us. And I know that I've noticed that I can easily eat chicken breasts without getting that feeling, right? But if I have bacon or pork belly, I can even have less bacon than I have of chicken breasts, and I will get that feeling from the bacon, but I will be able to eat more chicken breasts. So it doesn't take that much, but at the same time, it needs to be there. So I oh my goodness, I'm completely done. I feel done with this, with eating, like the stupidity that we've been taught that calories in, calories out somehow, that this is the way that supposed to make us understand like what to do to lose weight, right? Because that calorie counting isn't helping us. And that scrutinizing of all the foods, right? That isn't helping us either. What's going to help is that we stop eating because we aren't hungry, right? If I stop eating because I'm not hungry, going back to the whole tracking idea, do I need to track my calories and keep count of how many calories? Every stupid food tracker is talking about calories, what my body doesn't understand. What I really need to be tracking is the carbohydrates if I'm going to track anything. And now the next question is, well, do I even need to track fat? Because the tracker is going to tell us how much fat too, right? But I don't need to do that either because my body naturally sends me a signal when I've had enough fat that not just allows me to stop eating, it like gives me the big to stop eating. Like it's you know, once where I just encourage you to make a meal and like make a steak or pork chop, something that has a good amount of fat on it. Maybe make 2 or 3 and don't make anything else and just eat. And if you don't get that signal, I'm going to be shocked. But it has to be that that's all you've eaten, right? And I will even go as far as to say, because I don't know, maybe this plays a role too. On the days that that happened to me, well, it's been happening to me every day. So lately, but it's also that even when I first noticed it, the meal that I was eating, so that would have been ribs way back in the day when I was still keto. For whatever reason, I had decided just to have ribs. There wasn't any veg on the plate for some reason. And I actually think Ben Bickman is the first person I heard talk about this again in the last 6 years. For some reason, when you eat carbohydrate, your body's able to take in more. But if you eat just meat, your body gives you a very clear signal when you've had enough if the accompanying fat is there. And what does that mean for us? We stop eating, first of all. But even better, it means that we aren't looking for dessert. When I get that, like, oh, I can't take anything else, I'm not looking to take anything else. And that's terrific because some of us have a real issue with letting go of dessert, letting go of eating. Like some of us eat because we like to eat. And that signal, I can tell you, amazing. All right. Now, there are 2 more that I worked out in the last 6 years. But before I share that, so this third one, right? If you're getting value out of this video, do you mind just please hitting the like button? That really would help me. So, dieting, the third one, dieting has a negative association, right? No one wants to admit ever that they're on a diet. And we believe we just need to suffer through eating a bit of rabbit food, right? Just like if I just do this for a short period of time, and then I do it for as long as it takes me to get to my goal weight, and then I can go back to eating the real food. Hmm. The one thing that I did correct when I began my keto way of eating was I took the time to find a way to cook those vegetables, right? Those new vegetables that I had never seen, first of all, because I didn't used to eat vegetables. I know. It's like I even as I say that this many years later, it still like makes me wonder, how did I get through all of that time not eating vegetables? However, I'm happy that I did. I can only imagine how much more ill I would have been had I been eating all those vegetables that eat that rainbow that I've always been told I should have been doing that I just wasn't doing. And the excuse I gave myself was that I was, I hated cooking, that I was too tired, that I didn't have time. I gave myself all the excuses. I'm glad I gave myself. This is one of the few occasions that I feel glad that I gave myself excuses, because it stopped me from having had years of eating all those vegetables that would have harmed my body. Because after the interview that I did with Lee and seeing how all the fiber that he was diligently trying to get in to heal his gut issues, to only turn around and find out that it was those plants that he was eating that were causing his gut issues. I'm the happiest person on the planet. That's the one thing that I did wrong that worked for me. But at the beginning of my keto journey, I did listen to my Dr. Berg videos where he explained that we needed to have 7 to 10 cups of fruits and vegetables to help us to um to get all the micronutrients and all the things, right, that we're supposed to need alongside our meat and have a healthy keto way of eating. So I decided to figure out, how am I going to cook these vegetables, because that's what's going to help me. And I found a way, and it was delicious. I found a way that was delicious. I love them. So it's funny. I went from not eating vegetables to eating meat and vegetables and loving the vegetables. I spiced them and it was terrific. My flavor profile, what worked for me. And lazy cook, I just ate the same thing, the same combination of vegetables, maybe slightly more or less of A versus B on a different day, but the same combination, cooked the same way for months, Wellness Warrior. And why was I able to do that? Because it tasted delicious to me. That's why I was able to do it. Right? Sometimes I'd go and they'd have less of, they wouldn't have like something, and I would not have it in the mix, so it would taste a little different. But basically, the recipe didn't change. I also had salads in there, and yeah, that was it. And I didn't stop eating them. Right? I liked them. I kept eating them, and I only really truly stopped eating them initially. The first reason was because I learned I didn't actually need them. So when I learned I didn't need them, I slowed down on cooking them. And then I continued forward and I still felt good. And then I slowed down a little more and I still felt good. And so now I was having them occasionally. And then I stopped making that mix that I was making, and I started having the occasional vegetable. And a big part of my decision to stop making that big mix is that I don't like to cook. And I fully say that knowing that I need to cook in order to eat. I don't like to cook. And I need to cook in order to eat, because when I eat out at restaurants nowadays, there's not much that on the menu that falls in line with my healthy way of eating. So therefore, I eat at home like most of the time. So when I stopped cooking all those vegetables, eventually I started to do this thing where maybe I'd buy one kind of vegetable for this week and I would cook it and I'd get through as much of it as I can. And if I didn't get through it, I'd just toss it, because I no longer have any problem with tossing vegetables. They're not food anyway. So I want you to make your meals taste the way that you want them to taste. If you like to cook, make delicious meals. If you don't like to cook like me, it's even more important for you to make delicious meals, because that's what's going to keep you cooking and stop you from ordering food. But then at some point, I learned that I didn't even need to make those veg. So I still make delicious meals. It just consists of meat, eggs, fish, poultry, right? My meals are still delicious. You need to figure yourself out, right? But the one thing I can tell you that I've learned, and I'm 100% on this one. If you like what you're eating, you'll eat it, right? That will keep you on track. That will allow you to heal your body. If you like what you're eating, you'll eat it, right? Now, for the last mistake that I figured out in the last 6 years, this one is like it's a bit embarrassing, right? So, I mean, seriously, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button because I'm about to tell you something here. I think I'm pretty level-headed. But somehow, whenever the summer kind of rolls around, I would start picking it apart, tearing apart, focusing on details of my body that I don't look at any other time of the year. Some reason, right? And I would work myself up about it, right? Oh my gosh, summer's coming. I'm gonna be wearing less layers. Oh my gosh, there were years I didn't even wear shorts. Like I refused, wouldn't put on shorts. In the last 6 months, I've 6 years, sorry. In the last 6 years, I've had a chance to really evaluate what was making me feel like this, right? Like every summer it would happen over and over and over. And I don't have a supermodel body. I don't. And in the last 6 years, the realization that I came to is that I don't actually know anyone who has a supermodel body. Like, not one person. Every person that I know in my real world, I can look at them and see some kind of flaw. Just because I have the example of what a supermodel body looks like, and then I would look, right? Now, let's be honest. Do supermodels have supermodel bodies? They might not. Like, truthfully, when they're airbrushed and all the things, we don't know, right? And then when they're on talk shows or whatever, they're typically wearing clothes, so like they can hide whatever doesn't work for them or doesn't work for the look, right? And of course, supermodels have the supermodel budget to be able to buy the clothes that flatter their body, that makes them look like perfection all the time. So the fact that I don't know anyone with a supermodel body, and yet most of the people I know wear bathing suits and shorts and tank tops and all the things, it led me to be like, am I just overly analyzing and being hard on myself? Again, going back to that thing that we learned to do in school where we're supposed to succeed by equals perfection, right? We need 100%. We need all the right answers. We need everything to look right all the time. It amazes me how hard we are on ourselves, and yet totally fine and accepting of other people out there living their best lives, right? Because truthfully, I see all these people in their shorts and tank tops and they're not overheating and they're fine. And of course, you know what? I mean, not to say that I was overheating, but yeah, it's fun to wear shorts. It's fun to have a different look. Hmm. We're so normal with other people and then hard on ourselves. I'm curious if you've done that to yourself. Have you said, yeah, it's good for them to do, but I could never do that? I think I only fully could see this one in the last 6 years. Why? Because I'm at goal weight and still don't have the supermodel body, right? And when I first got to goal weight, I was resistant to buying a new bathing suit, right? I was like, I didn't want to go, and I was still fussing over wearing shorts, and Just feeling a bit uncomfortable anytime there was a bit more skin showing. Hmm. It's really hard to let go of those old ideas. And this is one that it'll probably take me time to get completely over, right? Because here we are back in summer again. And have I worn shirts yet? Nope, I haven't worn shorts yet. Interesting to me because it's been warm enough to wear shorts. Yeah, I know myself, right? I'm not going to work out like it's my job to have perfect abs and an hourglass shape and look like a supermodel. I'm not going to do that. So in the past, my brain would have went to, well, it's probably just because I'm just uncomfortable because I'm overweight, right? That's what's doing this. And so like, when I lose weight, then I'll put on the shorts. Here I am, right? I'm at goal weight, not wearing the shorts. And I I think that sometimes I get uncomfortable because my body has my shape, not the fashion magazine shape. But, and this is something I want you to think about. My body allows me to climb, to snowboard, to longboard, and all the fun things that I love to do. So rather than trying to force my body to lose another 20 pounds and risking potential injury, by the way, by doing that extra, like maybe, or if I go to the gym and like try to push myself in the gym and do like extra, like I don't want to risk potential injury, whether it's because I'm not eating the right way or because I'm doing too much exercise or pushing myself on exercises that don't work for me. Enjoy your body and do the activities that make you happy, wellness warrior, because that's what I'm doing. And it allows me to put down this crazy idea that we all should be shaped the same way. Your body is here to help you live a great life. That's what it's for. And if you just let yourself engage, so eat healthy, exercise on some level because it's good to move, live your life. Now, I would love to know which of the 4 mistakes that I just went through do you think contributes or contributed most to your struggle with weight loss? As I feel like for me, it probably was the first one. This way that we are educated to just focus on getting to a goal. That one that hit me the most because I just kept back and forth, lose the weight, put it back on, lose the weight, put it back on. Right? I'd love to know which one was yours. But or maybe you even have some other mistake that I didn't think of that you figured out that was taking you off track, like now that you've accomplished your goal. Because I know that I do have others. I mean, I didn't put them all in this video. Like there's one that was more of a mindset game that I was playing with myself. And like when it came to like nuts, it played out there hugely. That mindset game that I was playing with myself, it was crazy. As a matter of fact, I have a video about it that's linked in the description, and I'll put it in the end card. So you could check that video out afterwards. Let's look at comments, questions, QQQ on any questions that you possibly have for me. I would love to answer your question. I just want to start right off by saying hello to Ange and Cam. So sorry, Ange. Let's see. You're here in Canada and 14. I did not know that. And thank you for sharing. Good morning, Cam. And I'm not sure where you're coming in from. Cassandra Ball, good morning. Sarah Frost, hello. Hi, Acer. So any questions, QQQ? I would love to answer some questions today to help everybody out this morning. afternoon. Is it afternoon yet? Yeah, it's afternoon for me here. Hello, Rosemary from Sweden. I'm sorry to hear that you're not feeling very well. Hello, sing it. You're in Chicago. Nice to have you here. Uh, Ronnie Millsap, hello. Thank you for that, Ronnie. I do coaching. Um, my weight loss journey with keto. Oh, sorry, by Keto Granny. Hello, I'm glad to see you. Do you feel that the carnivore diet can help with heart failure? My immediate want to answer statement is, if I have heart failure, chances are what I was eating before that might not have been healthy. I might have gotten sick or had some kind of something happen to me. So like what led up to me being sick right now is obviously going to be the most important thing to solve. So if food was the biggest contributor, then improving your food 100% is going to help you. But sometimes people have other things happen, right? They're in chemicals and other things can cause us to be ill and have heart problems. So that's my first thing. I want to just point out that I also want to say I'm not a doctor, and this is me just giving you my opinions. So just like make sure I say that too. But what I always encourage people to think about is a proper diet, a healthy diet, is not going to harm you more. And that's where my brain leans to. If I had any medical anything going on, I would probably even drop the coffee that I still drink, right? Which I think is the only plant I have left. Yeah, I probably would even drop that. But because I think that when your body is trying to heal, putting things into it that isn't towards your benefit doesn't make any sense. Now, we add to that for you right now, or for whoever you're talking about who has heart failure, you probably have all kind of medical interventions happening. So I hope that you have a keto carnivore friendly doctor. That's what I hope for all of us. It's part of the reason I make these videos. So I'm hoping more and more people will share them and talk about this stuff and get their doctors to at least look at the benefit of eating healthy. Hello, Gispina, and thank you for following from Italy. It's terrific to have you here. Hello, Forever Tea. So I want to jump down and try to find some questions. Obvious ick happens. Yeah. Oh, you felt the ick? Yeah, I definitely feel like, oh, one more hello. Hi, Pat. Good morning, afternoon by this point. Montreal. Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking for questions at this point. I would love to answer some. Especially like I'm kind of curious to know if any of you have a different something you've noticed since eating healthier. Where are you in your journey, as a matter of fact? Because that's also very interesting to me. I'm never sure how many people watching my videos are along their way in the keto journey, or just starting, or completely at goal. Like, where are we on the spectrum? I'm at goal, but even though I'm at goal, I feel like I'm still on a journey because my food has again changed. And now that I'm doing carnivore, it's amazing. You think you can't feel better, and then you feel better. So I'm honestly wondering, is there an upper limit of just feeling good and using your body well, doing the activities you want to do, living an amazing life, which I wish for all of you. Again, why I make these videos. I would love for you to be able to live an amazing life. Actually, I see an interesting comment here. Mom messed up. Because it comes in your size doesn't mean you should wear it. My little brother, you're going out with that? co- cottage cheese in your thigh? Lipedema legs, don't wear them. Hmm. Hmm. So, hmm. Yeah, I definitely would say, Sing It, that sometimes our insecurities get on our kids. And so if I feel uncomfortable with how I look, then I end up telling my kid that they shouldn't do that or they shouldn't look like that, because a lot of times, because I feel like you're a reflection of me as a parent, right? And like we get that thing happening where it's like, oh, what are people going to think if they see you just like that? Which is never something that we should be worrying about. But the other thing is that we end up telling our kid that they're not okay, and they might be okay with, so they likely are okay, not even that they might be, they are okay with how they look until they get feedback from others that says that you shouldn't be okay with it. And especially when that feedback is coming from mom, brother, father, cousin, the people who love us telling us that we shouldn't be okay with our look, yeah, then it's hard, right? Because I'm not it just creates so many internal negatives and problems. That means that I might not solve the problem, because rather than telling me anything towards helpful, you're just making me feel bad about what I'm living. So, and does that cause me to then turn around and self-soothe with food? I could totally see that would have made me self-soothe with food. Definitely. I would have been right there. Pat says, for me, believing the lie that everything is healthy except for desserts and candies. Oh, yes. Yeah. So that goes with, I think, number two, right? That's a whole idea that is all about the amount of calories. And like if you just don't eat junk, and like it all comes back together. Like this is a math equation, and it's not looking at the specific macronutrients of the foods. We're just ignoring that candy is all sugar, and so is chocolate. The thing that used to cause me the most trouble in my lifetime. Chocolate is all sugar, right? Oh, there's fat in it, but it's mostly sugar. And it's not doing me any favors. Hello from Los Angeles. Thank you for coming by. So, Andrew's saying, I can see even though keto and carnivore has helped many, but we still have it messed up because people are still trying to eat copycats of their favorites. Yeah. It's probably the hardest thing for me to let go. So, Ange, I totally agree with you. Um, Multiple reasons that this is problematic. And I think the one that I didn't really understand until this year. So, no, that's not true. I first learned about Sally Norton back in 2019. So, actually, yeah, it was a year into my journey. I first learned about this one, but I think I expanded it across all my foods only in the last year. But what I learned from Sally was that when we eat carbohydrates, there are oxalates in a lot of these plants. So I originally took almond flour out of my diet plan because there's so much oxalate in almonds. And because I took almond flour out, almost all the keto treats fell. Right? I still was able to eat nuts, so that's where my brain went, right? I was having nuts and all that stuff. But the whole idea of a treat to begin with is something that our world needs to put down. Because again, going back to when we were hunting for every meal, we weren't eating treats. We were eating food, right? We put a lot of time, energy, and effort into getting out there and catching some kind of animal. Then we would eat it. And then we would get on with the rest of whatever we needed to do to keep ourselves safe overnight. Right. So like it was a constant keep yourself healthy and safe story. And treats didn't come into that. We really we're in an interesting situation these days where we just think that we're supposed to be treating ourselves all the time, and that's just not reality. And we have someone who's just starting carnivore. Thank you for letting me know that. What is my best suggestion when starting? Also, how do I gauge my intake of 30 protein, 70 fat? Again, I feel like this whole idea that I need to pay super close attention to that percentage of fat is something that's always, or more recently, I should say, got me wondering. And maybe always, because even when I started my keto journey, I wasn't paying attention to the fat percentage, right? I was only focused on making sure my carb count was low. And I would encourage that even till today, that you're doing carnivore, purchase the cuts of meat that you like, hope and let those cuts of meat be the non lean versions of meat. That's really the only thing you need to do, is like make sure it's not the lean version. When you're buying anything, if it says lean, that means you're going to have to add fat back, which there's a part of me that's not sure why. Um, I don't feel like I get the same ick that happens just by adding fat. It's weird. But I don't know if I'm just not eating enough of those things where I have to add the fat to get the balance to, but I feel like when I eat the meat and the fat that came along with it, that's when I notice this the most. Like if I'm eating, especially ribs. So what percentage I'm not sure about that. But what I would say is if you choose the meats that are not lean and eat to satiate or eat till you get that ick feeling, how much do you end up eating? I mean, I guess I don't even know how we could tell in our reality. So let me just back up and do this. Let's say that I buy some meat from the grocery store and it says, it's medium fat. How am I going to know? Grocery stores lie to us all the time. If they put more fat in my meat, then I'm paying for more fat than meat, and fat's cheaper. So grocery stores will lie to you and tell you that even the lean ground beef is leaner than it is because there's a percentage it's supposed to be. And when people check, it's always more than what they've told you. So, or more than what it should be to qualify as lean. So I think that what is more important for us to do is eat the cuts of meat that we like and then move forward from there. And if I'm still hungry, maybe that's more what's going to tell me that if I'm still hungry, maybe that's more what's going to tell me that I need to keep focusing on the, like, I just realized, I feel like I'm not seeing is it my imagination or are you not seeing my comments that I'm putting on the screen? Huh. Have we not been seeing the comments all this time? That's frustrating. Let me just try to put one up now. Let's see. I have to roll back up. Oh, I got a few things coming in. But is it my imagination? I feel like, okay, now it's working. Why wasn't it working before? Sorry, guys. I was putting up your comments and your names. Okay. So where was I in my list now? Because I just lost my place. Yeah, I was here. So sorry about that. I'm not sure why that didn't work. Yeah, so that would be my suggestion to you, Cami, to just focus your attention on eating the correct amount of the whatever meat you actually like. So Singit asks, does it take longer for your body to let you know that you ate something wrong? Thinking body being healthy could go either way, immediately or take some days. I tend to notice very quickly. Like I'll eat something and within hours, if I've eaten something I shouldn't have eaten, I'm feeling it. I don't know if I've talked to anyone that it took days. So I'm going to try to sit here and think about it. Has in the more recent history, I've noticed that if I eat anything with like so for example, vegetation, when I did the carnivore the first time and I reintroduced vegetation, my intestines told me almost immediately. My stomach intestine told me almost immediately didn't like that. Anytime that Pat has cooked a piece of veg that I hadn't had in a long time that I wanted, again, I like within hours, like I knew that I probably shouldn't have done that. So I would say that for me, It's really quick for the things, even like inflammatory oils. Like one of the times since learning about the lemon oil on our meat at the restaurant we go to, one time we forgot to ask them not to put lemon oil. And then like I figured it out because of, like, but maybe it was the next day for that one. Like I feel like the next morning I wasn't, but that's still a few hours later because we eat around 7 to 8 at night, maybe 9 on the outside. So no, that's not on the outside. 9. We often eat on Saturdays at 9. But what regardless, we eat like really late, and I felt it the next morning. It was like, and it took me 2 or 3 days to figure out like what it was happening from. And like I went back and I was like, oh my gosh, when we ordered, did you remember to ask for no lemon oil? And he was like, oh gosh, no, he forgot. But it took me a few days to backtrack and figure it out. First diet, 10 years old. I hated school, shopping as a girl, and it was always embarrassing. Uh, sorry to hear that. Um, I guess I was lucky that I did like shopping, so I didn't have that as an issue. Um, so let's see. I'm gonna look for some more questions. Okay, so I see a Nope, sorry, that's Pat, but I thought I saw a question. Nope. Here we got another question from Sing It. So carnivore influencer, sober through meat, 55 pounds down, but keeps overeating and snacking when not hungry. Can't stop herself though, aware of it happening. Addiction, need for therapy. I resonate. I don't know this influencer. So first of all, I'll say my I guess my follow-up question to you is when you say keeps overeating, are you saying overeating on meat products? And now my new question, if that's the truth, so it's not that they're going out of carnivore to overeat, they're overeating on meat products. What are the meat products that they're eating? That would be my next question. So because some people are just more sensitive to sugar than others, if I'm eating only meat, but let's say, first of all, if there's any sweet flavors on this meat, so I'm thinking things like have barbecue sauce on it, or I'm thinking about things that have, maybe honey on them, or these kind of things, because in a carnivore lifestyle, there's no problem with honey, right? So every lifestyle has these different little nuances that can cause us to get into trouble. So that's the first place my brain goes there, not having watched this person's videos before. But then the second part of the story is, depending on how was I eating before, some people refer to themselves as volume eaters, and they're actively trying to get that distended feeling. And so if that's what you're doing, then yes, that could be part of your addiction cycle. That feeling that way is part of what gives you that positive reinforcing feeling. And if that's happening, then the way to counter that would to allow yourself to do many, 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 many days of not feeling that. Now, so how does that work in the eat to satiation and that ick feeling I'm talking about that I was in the video? What's interesting to me is that a lot of the time that ick feeling happens before I would ever feel like any kind of distended anything, right? Like I don't typically finish eating and feel like physically like, oh, I'm full. Even though I'm stopping when my mouth is like saying, oh, this is not, I don't want any more of this. So what I think is that pushing to that point, yeah, that's part of the cycle. Now, can I also just offer that, going back to my original 6 years ago, one of the first things I learned from Dr. Westman was that the goal is to eat, if you're doing keto, to eat to satiation. And I say if you're doing keto because Dr. Berry has a slightly different, and Dr. Baker have a slightly different interpretation, that you should be eating to slightly full. I still feel that I don't need either of those things to happen. I'm pretty good on feeling like once I get that feeling from my food of like, oh, stop eating, I'm satiated. Maybe okay, maybe I could say I'm slightly full, but I don't have the full like here feeling like where I feel like I'm distended. It just feels like I could not take in any more food. That's the feeling that I have. Thank you so much. No worries. Oh, so the ick feeling means once you're full, you can't eat. And can't is a really interesting word. If I keep putting things in my mouth and swallowing, I will clearly keep eating. But it's more that feeling of like, I really just I don't want any more. I'm done. I'm complete. Like I do feel that if we listen to our bodies and that feelings, all the signals that our body gives us, we would notice the signals and then we would stop eating. But because we're so programmed to clear our plate, another 100% rule that we get from school and that we've been taught at home even, right? I can't possibly throw food away because those children over in whatever country that don't have food, so I have to eat, I have to overeat for the kids who don't have it. Doesn't make sense, wellness warrior. And all it's doing is harming our body. So like we need to be able to look at what we're doing and be okay with I've had enough equals I stop eating. Once in a while I'll take that last piece of chicken or last piece of whatever meat and put it in the fridge thinking maybe I'll just throw it on my plate tomorrow with whatever I'm eating. I'll tell you that almost never does that actually happen. I usually end up throwing it away at some point, right? Because I'm always making about the ish pound that I'm pretty sure that I'm going to eat. And so since I know I eat about a pound of meat, then that's like I'm making that every time, right? So it's very, very rare that when I'm finished eating, I don't just toss it. But if it's a complete chicken, whatever, leg, thigh, whatever that I haven't actually touched, I might put it for another day. Thank you for letting me know that, Pat. I appreciate it. And then sing it. I'm thinking this is meat products. So follow up to the question: butter, pork rinds, cooked meats, replacing her drinking addiction with snacking. So I'm gonna also just like say that if this is a hard one because pork rinds, yes, they fall inside of our way of eating. However, processed food, so, and why I get stuck here a little bit on pork rinds is that I think a lot of people don't realize that when they process these things and they're saying, oh, yeah, it's just this, like, I still struggle with knowing how many companies have gotten caught up in saying there wasn't something in their product. And then when chemical analysis was done on the stuff, yeah, the thing you said wasn't in there was in there. So that's the first place that I go with that. Like the pork rinds, I probably would try to pull those out. And then, meat products. So if we're talking about like, oh, what do you call those things? Beef jerky that she's not making, or he, I'm not sure if that was she or he. If the person isn't making their own jerky, again, they add sugar to those things. And so we need to be aware that if we are very, very metabolically down, challenged, we will react to even the smallest amount of carbohydrate. Even the spices in some of the meat products could be the spices on the pork rinds, even that could be causing problems for some people. And it's such a minuscule amount that we discount it. But the same way that they say, oh, it's not possible that you're reacting to the little bit of solanine in peppers and tomatoes and all those things. Somehow I was reacting to something, right? So regardless, they say tomatoes, potatoes, um, peppers. They're saying these things are absolutely not only just not bad for you, but healthy, Violet. You should be able to, and yet I eat them and I'm in pain the next day or not even the next day, in the middle of the night. Right. So no, that little bit of spices on the pork rinds, that little bit of spices on your meats could be causing you to chase. So I would encourage you, if that's the example you have, and that's what you want to do to help yourself, I would seriously look at either making my own pork rinds. I don't know how hard they are to make. But that would be a thing. At least I know there's no chemicals in there, and that would help me. So I might make my own pork rinds, or if not, then I would just try to figure out how to be happy on eating just real food. The butter, if that's like a direct eating of butter, again, that might be the wanting to feel full thing, and just liking to eat. I think when we're doing certain actions, we need to be honest with ourselves why we're doing it and then attack each one of these issues individually. And if I eat because I find it fun, then I need to find something else that's fun and put down the idea of eating and do something else. And you said that there was a drinking addiction prior to this. So that's the other piece of this puzzle, is that if I was drinking because I had an addiction, and then I switch myself over to eating food and I'm engaging with it addictively, well, yes, it just becomes my new addiction. And then I can find all kinds of fun ways with food to make it. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's too many ways to keep myself on a bad path in this particular story. I would take one at a time and I would solve each one. I have a question here. Do you think carnivore can assist with cutting back on heavy use of smoking? And maybe this is a crazy question, but what I think that anytime you address addictive anything, then you can correct addictive anything. So a lot of people have said that carnivore helped them correct their drinking issues because when you start eating for health, you start drinking for health, and you start to see where the thing that I'm drinking is damaging my health, and you start making those connections, and slowly over time you can make adjustments. And I think it's the same thing here, right? Like, if you want to stop, it's about taking the time to make the connections and then engaging that. So that's a decision now. I'm either doing it or I'm not doing it. If I decide I'm not doing it, I'll stop doing it. I know you agree that carnivore fixes many things, but not everything. Convinced that sometimes we need to go get talk therapy. I definitely think that talking to someone, and I would never disagree with that. I mean, anybody that knows what my other life is like, yeah, I would never disagree with that. Like, I definitely could see where talking through some of these things can absolutely be helpful. What I'm pointing out, though, is that we also need to be honest with ourselves to make the talk therapy work. So if I'm not honest about the fact that part of what makes me feel good is the feeling of being stuffed, that kind of a conversation might not come up in the therapy, especially if your therapist isn't overweight, because they might not click into that nuance, right? So the more you understand about what you're doing and can share with your therapist, then the more possibilities that the two of you together can find a really good solution. And thank you. I do think they're cute. A question here. Do you think doing a sardine fast is a good way of learning the differences between cravings and being satiated? I'm on day 2 of a sardine fast and feel great so far. I'm not sure what a sardine fast is. Because to me, that doesn't math. If you're eating something that's bringing in energy, you're not fasting. But I think what you're trying to say is doing a sardine diet for a while. And in that case, I would say that, so would that help me to know the difference between cravings and being satiated? I think anytime that I eat only one thing, I'd be able to make that differentiation, because at some point, even if I love it, by the way, at some point I'm going to be excited for eating it. But if that's really truly the only thing that I'm eating, and it's not causing a dopamine reaction. So like I'm not talking about only eating French fries. That's not going to help me. But like if I'm eating only meat, fish, poultry, eggs, that kind of stuff, yeah, I think that that's going to help you, because every time that I get hungry, that's all I'm allowed to have. Then at some point, the chasing would subside, because I wouldn't be bringing in anything that's going to cause me to be chasing carbohydrates. And after eating that way, how long do I think it would take me? So if I'm active in my chasing, it's probably going to take me at least a week, I would say. If I'm not active in my chasing, then yeah, I think it would probably happen almost immediately, where you get hungry, eat something, and then you would not be hungry for a good little while if you if you ate enough. So if you ate a meal's worth of sardines, and then if you just keep doing that, yeah, I think that that would absolutely help. I feel there's a long way around to say yes, but I needed to explain it to myself in my head of what you were doing. Um, so you're fully carnivore and want to lose 80 pounds, have been carnivore since January. No weight loss. So do I have to dump heavy cream and cheese? I enjoy them so much as a condiment. What's catching my attention is no weight loss at all. Like, since that part is so, did you transition from keto to carnivore? I don't know if you can add me a little bit more details there, because zero is a big, like, no me to me means zero, and that doesn't add up in my head. So something is not working. Um, Now, obviously, I'll say this: it is absolutely possible to eat all the energy we need from the foods that we're eating and keep ourselves at a net zero, right? So I guess the flip side of the coin is, were you previously gaining weight and now you are no longer gaining weight, which would also explain it, which is again fine. At least you're at some stability. But if you are eating more than your body needs, you won't lose weight. That's one reason. Or if you don't have 80 pounds to lose, you won't lose weight. That's another reason. So I'm not sure where you fall there, because I have met people that are absolutely at their goal weight and still want to lose weight. And your body isn't going to do that just because you change your diet. So those are the two things that come to me. If I'm far off, you can give me another comment. So Sing It is saying, my answer to Cami, so we can change our thinking through awareness once eating and drinking properly. I do believe that we can. So if you have the ability to reflect, if you have the ability to look at what you were doing that wasn't working, why were you doing that in the first place? And then look at what you're doing now that is working, and why are you currently doing it? You can make adjustments and you can make connections. Do I think that you'll make them as quickly as you would make them with your psychologist? No. Like, of course, if you're working with someone, something that might take you months or even a year to figure out, your psychologist and you might be able to figure it out in somewhere between, weeks and a minimum amount of months. So I'm not suggesting that it's not a necessary thing. I'm not saying it's not something that we shouldn't do. I'm just saying that, and maybe I'm saying this in this way because I know how to do it. So that's also part of why this might be coming across this way, because it's not a just do scenario. It's a work and do scenario. Everything I'm talking about will take some energy, effort, and work to do. The same way that getting your diet under control takes some energy, effort, and work, right? Like, you actually need to look at what you're eating, change something, and usually it's better if you change one thing at a time, but change something and some things over time, and then see how each of the changes impacted you and adjust again accordingly. If you're truly, truly trying to do something healthy for yourself, you're not just going to rush in and change everything, because then I don't know what led to the outcome that I'm currently living, right? And even if you think about my beginning with my diet, my meat didn't change. I still cooked my meats exactly how I was used to cooking them. So my meats were the same. I wasn't eating vegetables. I started eating vegetables. That was a change. And then I moved forward. I was eating these healthy vegetables. I stopped eating vegetable, or I stopped eating as much vegetables, but they were still the same vegetables. I just decreased how much I was having. That was the next change. So I was constantly doing things and then looking at how my body reacted and then doing something else and looking at how my body reacted and doing right. And as you make those adjustments, you gather data and you can address that. Now, probably if I would have talked to like a Dr. Barry or Sean Baker or, like Dr. Chaffee right off the bat, like if I would have met them early in my career of, 6 years of eating healthy and gotten like good data from them that says, this is the roadmap, just do this. Would I have gone from all of that, what I was trying to do, straight to just eating meat and gotten to where I am right now faster? Well, yeah, because I would have understood. And if they had explained it to me, they would need to explain it to me, right? Because that's what happens when you're in therapy. Like you get all the data behind why this is better, that's better, da da da. You get all the based on your life. You get all the connections drawn for you to help you to understand why choosing one way is going to be better for you than another, right? Like, so I think that what you want to do is you want to either decide for yourself that I'm confident and I can take the time and I can walk you through, which is what I did, or you can work with someone. I hope that makes sense. So you're saying that the person you're talking about is doing a 10-day sardine whatever right now as well. Okay. I mean, I know that there's some question mark, like, and this is new information, so don't take me anywhere. I've recently watched another doctor that's carnivore talking, like, questioning sardines. So I'm not really sure like what the reason is behind. I haven't been able to find an original video where that doctor talks about why they question sardines. So I'm but then I heard him also question sushi more recently. So now I'm kind of like, I don't understand. Like, is it all fish that he's questioning? So like, as I said during the video, there's always more to learn. I don't know near enough. And so there's always going to be more for me to learn. So here we have the 72-hour sardine fast is it hour? Or is that, yeah, I'm assuming that was supposed to be hour, is a Dr. Boz protocol, and she uses in her own program. Okay, so she has a program. Okay, and it has a sardine fast in it. I'm just curious. I'm wondering why sardines. Like, of all the things that it could be, why a processed? Unless, or maybe you could use fresh sardines. I mean, theoretically, yes, you could use fresh sardines because you can buy sardine, the fish. Although I don't know how readily available it is for people to buy, but that is something. But if the protocol is involving canned sardines, I have a hard time with that one because I don't know that I would want all of my food intake for, well, it's only 24 hours. I'm not sure where I'm standing on that one. I would have to watch Dr. Boz and see why that's the protocol. And if it's strictly for you to learn about your cravings, I mean, all you would really need to do to learn about your cravings is eat a really healthy meal that doesn't have any carbohydrates in it at all. Like a few good days in a row. So maybe if you did 3 days in a row just eating no carb meals, and see like how often are you chasing versus when you eat meals that have carbs in them. How often do you feel like after you've eaten you still want to have something, which was something that I did notice, and I don't know. I don't know. Everybody has their protocols, and I get that ick uh too. can't eat enough due to this meat. It's not a meat aversion though. This is the thing. Like Dr. Chafee talked about this when I spoke to him. Um, that video's on my channel. Like we think that we need to eat so much, and we have these calorie numbers that we think we're supposed to hit. But I also want to point out something that I noticed in my trajectory of like when I lost well, actually it was not when I lost the weight, it was afterwards, but I noticed it like there were periods of time over the course of the years of like, eating keto, and you realize that there's some periods of time where you're not getting in much energy, right? So you're not eating a lot. And then there's other times where you're eating more. But what we don't realize is that we have energy on us at all times. So my body could send me out to get some building blocks. So it needs protein, it needs maybe some lipids, but it doesn't need a copious amount of food. And if we're eating just meat, then I'm going to get in the amount of protein and fat that I need, especially if I'm eating the fat that comes with it in a smaller package, let's say. But it's the right package because I don't have all that carb on my plate. So I get that feeling like, okay, you've had enough, because I have. My body's going to take it in, it's going to use it, it's going to do what it needs to do. If my body needs more energy, especially if I'm still in the process of losing weight, have energy on me. And even if I'm not in the process of losing weight, which is where I'm sitting right now, I have 2-ish months of reserves on me that my body can tap into at any point in time, right? We don't get down to the point where we don't have fat on us, Wellness Warrior. There will always be some energy that your body can tap into to allow you to be okay in case you don't get any food, or in case it asks you for protein because it didn't need anything else. We need to believe our body. We need to believe our body, and we need to like do what makes sense. And Drax is saying that you gained weight on carnivore, but in your case, based on your macros that you're eating too much. Well, I feel like this is what's interesting, is that it's not to say that if you're eating keto or carnivore, you cannot gain weight. Of course you can. Any way of eating, if you eat more than your body needs, you will gain weight. If you eat less than your body needs, you will lose weight. Both of those two things are correct. The thing that I'm rapidly learning is that we think we know how much our body needs, and so we either force for more or give it less, rather than listening to what our body is actually asking for. And I really trying to get you to see that that's a mistake. Rather than try to tell your body what it needs, what you really need to do is eat in a way that makes sense. So if I feel full and I'm uncomfortable, if I get that, this is too much feeling, and I keep going, I'm making a mistake. At the flip side of the coin, if I'm eating and I don't feel at all full, and I'm still feeling hungry, I'm still feeling like I want to eat, why would I stop eating? So either end of that spectrum, we shouldn't be doing. In the middle, I get that feeling of ick and I stop, which is where I'm landing right now. Or I feel satiated. I don't want anymore. I'm not hungry. I don't want anymore. And I'm satiated. And I stop. Either one of those, I think, can work. But you still need to be paying attention to yourself. Oh, I think I see what's happening there. Ha ha ha. You still need to be paying attention to yourself and allowing yourself to eat the way that the way that it makes sense for your body. And I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's see. So this is saying, can you share what your first meal of the day looks like? So I started this off, Cami, by saying that I really do my best, like not to to talk about um, the foods that I am eating specifically. And the reason that I do that is because it doesn't matter. Like, if I'm eating something that you don't like, you're not going to have it anyway. So the specific of what I'm eating, I'm doesn't make a difference. But what I will tell you is that the first meal that I have is usually the only meal that I have. So that's what I'll say. So typically my meal that I have is supper, and I have supper just because that's convenient. Um, and then and that's whatever we're having. So usually on my plate it's whatever meats we're having, and the kids will have whatever sides they're having. So I eat one meal a day, if that wasn't clear. I really don't like the idea of fast, like sardines and eggs, especially for those struggling with addictions. Yeah, like okay. So they're not fast though. So even I really struggle with calling something, if I'm taking in energy, I'm not fasting. But what this is it's a way to keep you in control, and that's forcing your body something. Now, if you like eggs and you just want to eat eggs all the time because that's what you like, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not a problem. There's lots of people that all they eat is steak and steak and steak and steak and steak, right? When I was doing standard diet, like, do you know how much French fries I was eating? Right? So, like, we do this all the time. We eat the thing we like. If you like those things, eat them. But I don't think that we should be focusing on that as a means of controlling our cravings. So, okay, let me be more clear. You need to understand that a craving is an addiction. It's two words, right? It's a cute word for the real reality that you are chasing, that you are not in control, that you want to eat this thing that is not healthy for you, and you're going to eat it anyways knowing that it's not healthy for you. That's what a craving is. It's the same way that when you're craving a drink or you're craving to smoke, like, you know that you shouldn't be. That's why you're trying not to. And if you end up doing it, you need to understand that I just did the thing that I know I shouldn't be doing. That's the point that I'm making right now. So, because I'm making that point, now what I want you to see is that if I if I put something else there that blocks me from noticing it. So for example, oh, you know what? I'm going to do this differently. Here's the answer. Craving means I want the thing that I know I shouldn't want. So if I crave being with this man who's not my spouse, right? Obviously doing that would be wrong. Okay. So maybe I see this man at work every day. So if what I do is I say, "Oh, well, all I'm going to do then is make sure that I'm never alone at work." So did I solve the problem? No, I haven't. Why do I want to be with him instead of mine? And if you never solve that to understand, why do I want to be with him instead of mine, you're going to stay stuck, wellness warrior. You're going to keep wanting that other person and being frustrated here. So when it comes to food, it's the same thing. If you are eating this way, but are chasing that, you need to figure that out. Why? Why is that happening? And chances are the only way it keeps happening is you're engaging with it. So if I don't chase chocolate anymore at all, like it could be in front of my face. I don't care at all. I smell it when I go to the grocery to the mall, because we have a Laura Secord in our mall. I smell it. I don't chase it anymore. When there are events, we were at an event this past weekend. There was chocolate cake all around me. I didn't care. And there's only one reason why I did not care. I haven't had chocolate in over 6 years. Because I haven't interacted with chocolate in over 6 years, I didn't. Well, that's not true. Over 5 years, when I was making those keto things, there was chocolate powder in those. So over 5 years. So because I haven't interacted with it, I'm not looking for it, and so therefore I am fine. Wellness warrior, if you find yourself still chasing, challenging yourself to only eat sardines when that's not what's you need to look at the fact that you're chasing that thing because every once in a while you're giving in. And now you have to look at, why do I give in once in a while? If you solve that, you're going to solve it all. So I see we've come to the end of our questions. I am so, so happy, Wellness Warrior, that you guys joined me today. It's 1 o'clock. So we went long today. It's a holiday here. So I want to go and have some fun with the kids. Have a good rest of your day. Next Monday, I will do this with you again, because we will have a new conversation about a new topic. Monday, 11:20. See you there. Click the link for the video that follows this one up, that's talking about the single dieting mistake that you overlooked. Talk to you soon.